Okay, I think we are live today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream, and make sure to comment below because and let me know how the audio is because it was such a debacle last week. It was a very bad stream, and I almost considered taking the stream off afterwards, but I decided to leave it on there for people who still wanted to watch the show. And even though there were low audio issues, I put it into the title just to make sure that everybody knew that there was an issue. I think somebody commented and said, Jesus Christ, what's going on? The audio issues are really bad. But hopefully I fixed it. Let me know how it sounds. The main reason was that I actually had the gain on at a quarter. So I lowered it because on the OBS, there's this audio mixer and it goes green, yellow, red. If you're red, then you're clipping. So it wasn't, it was always clipping. So I decided to just lower it last week and I forgot to tune it or whatever. So it's obviously not a good idea to do that. I've turned it up today to half and just give me a second. The kids are playing it in the background. Just give me a second. I'm back. The kids are super naughty. I don't know what to do. Hopefully they learn. But anyway, as I was saying, the gain is on half. So if I think it should be okay, and we'll just have to adjust it. You guys, let me know in the comments. Okay, so and then the other thing why it was a debacle was that I started about 50 minutes late. So that was a problem as well because it kind of messed up everything I was talking about. I had to do it twice, and then on the second time, you kind of lose track of like what you want to cut out and what you don't want to cut out because the first time obviously went for a bit long, and I had to do it again. But anyway, as you can see, I put a little bit more effort in this week. I've done an overlay. Let me just give you a bit of a tour. So we've got this main scene that I'm in. And then we've also got one for news. And you can see the chat. I've blown it up. Previously, I just had the pop-out chat and it was just too small for anybody to read that chat. Now you guys should be able to read it even if you are just watching it, say on the iPhone, and you're not actually looking at the chat. You can see the chat on screen. And we also have a second camera here. So we could do other things with this. I don't know what yet, but today I thought I'd show off the RTX 3060 that I kind of busted, but I can fix it. So not all is lost. So while we're here, I guess this would be a good time for me to, and it's the kids like just going, being stupid, annoying. And while we're here, I guess we should start with the RTX 3060. But while we're looking at that, I just thought I'd give you a breakdown of what we're going to do. So I've got this RTX 3060 that I just want to talk over a little bit before we actually get into the news. And then after that, then I've got some news. We're going to talk about Nintendo's financial report, which was amazing yet again. Although some of the headlines have been like, they're down on their profits. Yeah, they are, but they're still doing really well. We've got Amazon's New World. We've got Sony saying that they can Sony saying they can reach their goal of 22 million PS5 sales without shortages. So everything is kind of on track in terms of getting consoles out. And then we're going to talk a little bit about AMD Ryzen APUs. I think that's going to be pretty interesting. AnandTech put out a review of the Ryzen 7 5700 Ryzen APUs. And I thought it would be interesting just to have a look at some of those numbers for, I guess, Vega 8 compute unit GPUs that are going to be similar to the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck obviously has RDNA 2 units, so but you can get a gauge or get a feel for how it's going to perform later on the Steam Deck if you, I guess, adjust the performance accordingly. Okay, I guess you've been still looking at this RTX 3060, but let me just go to the browser scene because, and let me put it back to this. Okay, so I wanted to show you what I did. Let me see, get this. Okay, here we go. So, okay, so this is what I did yesterday. I was hoping to take this card apart because it was really dusty and it was really hot. So I don't actually have the, I did a bit of a benchmark beforehand just to get temperatures in mining at least. So at stock settings, it was at about 68 degrees. And 68 is a bit hot for it, at least for the GPU core, because I also know that 68 degrees, like where you want to sit for the GPU core temperature for mining is probably between around 50 to 60. That's a sweet spot for it. So I try to get my cards at around 55 if possible, at least inside a PC case. And for this card, it was about 68 for stock, at about 58 to 59 for optimized settings. So that's where I had the fan at 95%. I had the memory at like 1000, and then also the core, the power of the core was like 90%, something like that. So I kind of knew that it was getting worse. And when I first got the card, I think it would have been doing it around 53, 54 degrees. So it was already 5 degrees worse than what it was before. I don't know if you can see, but like, and this is where I bust the warranty sticker, which doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to get it off anyway if I could. But yeah, I couldn't do that very well. And yeah, I screwed that up. But let me try and, I don't know if when I turn over the card. So yeah, you take off the back plate, then you try to take this little sticker off, which was a real terrible, yeah, it didn't want to come off. Okay, well, anyways, this thing was so dusty inside. You can see all the dust, and the room is dusty as well. I have to vacuum every single week. I haven't cleaned the PC out in about 6 months, but even still, in other places that I've lived in, it's not as dusty as this. So yeah, this was just really bad. Anyway, so let me pause. Crap. Let me pause it there for a second. Okay, so what happened was I couldn't get these fan cables out. I think I posted about this in the community yesterday, in one of the community posts. So I busted the fan cable of this. Now, that's not such a bad thing because, I mean, worse things could happen. I could have cracked the GPU. But the fan, it's a bit annoying on this one because you can't actually just change the fan out. And I'll show you why in a second. But essentially, this whole fan thing is molded into one piece of plastic of this mold. So the fan is itself molded into this fan shroud. And so you can't replace this easily. You can you can buy these fans separately. I found a website that you could do that with international shipping coming from China, I believe. But you can't. even if I did that, I wouldn't be able to put the fan on because the whole bottom part of this fan is actually, it's actually molded to the rest of this fan shroud. I don't know if I have a better picture of this. Let me have a look. I do have a better picture. Let me go into my signal. If you guys give me 1 second. Shh. Well, I had a photo. I'll keep talking anyway, so that you guys don't leave. But yeah, so let me bring back the other video. So this white fan cable was the most annoying. Okay, here. Hopefully I can send this to myself quickly. I probably should just go straight to the other camera. But I think it's easier in a picture. So this is the fan shrouds already after I snapped the cable. And the whole thing is such a dumb design, right? Like, who makes it so that the fan is not detachable from the shroud? It doesn't make sense. So all of this if you can see my mouse pointer, all of this is like molded into one piece. If you take the sticker off, there's nothing, you can't really take that fan off either. There are no screws or anything like that on the back, and the entire fan is basically stuck onto this shroud. So unless I bought a dead RTX 3060, a pallet one, there wasn't really any way for me to just change out the fan. So I did contact somebody who was able to fix this fan cable. If I have another picture of this. So I cut two wires off. I might even have the moment where I cut it off. Let me have a look. Okay, so here's me trying to like get this out, and it just wouldn't come out. And it was these little fan cables are the most annoying. And you know, who designed these two fan headers in that same location? Oh, here we go. So I'm trying to wiggle it out. And again, guys, don't use a pair of pliers to do this, because you're going to just slip like I did and cut the cable off. And why am I actually talking about this is because I guess I want you guys to know that really just take it apart at the last possible moment if you can. Like, if the temps aren't that bad, there's no need to change out the thermal pads unless you really need to, because you're going to do something stupid like what I did. Now, oh, there we go. I think I cut one. Or I hadn't cut one. I hadn't learned or maybe I did cut one. Yeah, I think I cut one there. There, I might have said an F word at that point. But I think I went to try to get it out again, because obviously at that point I knew I had to get it off. if I wanted to get it fixed anyways, because if I was to send it to a repair guy to fix, then yeah, I would have to send it out to somebody. And so let me jump to the other camera view. Okay. Is that cat hair? It's not cat hair. We don't have a cat up here. And I know what cat hair looks like because I've had a cat. It's just a lot of dust. So much dust. Okay, so obviously you take the screws off at the back. To take off the back plate. A palette like to do this a lot, just have a separate black back plate, which is cool, I guess, because you don't want all of this showing anyway. So it's cool that they have. However, this back plate here is plastic, so even if I wanted to put like thermal pads along the back of these memory chips, I can't anyways. Well, I can, but it's not really going. This isn't going to do anything. This is just plastic, and it's got that brushed aluminium look, but it's plastic. Okay, not much to see on the back of this card. And I haven't taken this off yet. I probably should have, because it's supposed to be easier to take this off when it's warm, and now it's kind of cold. But I think it shouldn't be that bad, because these thermal pads look like they're not broken yet, or they haven't disintegrated like some of these other cards that I've taken apart. So now I've taken 3 cards apart, and 2 of them had big problems. So this is not something that people should just do all the time, because even if you're careful, you can do something silly like, I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, there are 2 cables there that are broken off. And the other thing I wanted to say was, whoops, where are they? These fan headers, there's extra space here on the PCB. So why didn't they just separate that out so that it's easier to get to? But I haven't taken this off yet. I'll take it off when I get my fan back, and then I'll do it all in one go, give this a proper clean and everything. And then I will, so initially I did make this video to put a full video of how to change out the thermal pads for a palette 3060. So it's not going to come out this week. And I guess if I manage to finally complete this and it all works and everything, then I guess I will put that video up. But obviously I can't really do that if, yeah, if for some reason I bust this card further. But that is the 3060. Yeah, this is all like, if I take off the plastic, the sticker, can you stop it? If I take off the sticker, like you can't even, ask Mama. Like you can't even push this, you can't push that out, and you can't push that out. I don't know if you guys can see, but and then I don't want to pull this off. It's already a bit loose actually, so it looks like it still works okay. So if the fans don't work, I'm in real trouble because I have to buy a new one. Yeah. That's a $700 card, guys. Luckily, I spent about 5 months mining this, so if it breaks, it's not the end of the world. 5 months times, I don't know, $5 a day, $3 or $4 a day.
Chill.
Okay, you guys gotta go.
Juju, okay? This is Jimmy, and he's doing mining and stuff every day.
Okay, you gotta go.
something, Jimmy.
Okay. Hello. Okay, let's have a look at some of these chats. Hi, Joe. How are you going? Thank you for following me on Twitter. If you guys haven't followed me on Twitter yet, please join in over there because I'm actually there a lot. So as much as I am on Discord, you guys have got to go. So I got to get rid of these guys. So okay, why don't you play the Nintendo Switch?
The Switch. I want to be in YouTube.
No, you don't. Okay. So what was I saying? Yeah. So hello, Joe, from Twitter, and we've also got a Discord as well. So if you want to join there, come along and join in the fun in the Discord. We've got a few people there already, and it's pretty good. It's just lacking a little bit of engagement at the moment. So the more people that join up, the better. You gotta go. And this is why I do my live streams at a different location and not at home. Okay, so Reen Jacobson. Yes, exactly. Okay, you gotta go.
Australia before. What mistake happened? Okay, can I tell you something? He was not in the mood.
Hello. Okay, so I was saying, Reen, yes. So I do. If these fans are busted, then I will just put on 2 Noctua fans. It's so hard to do it with kids. It's unbelievable. I need to do it at like in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. or something like this, the live stream. But anyway, what I was saying was, if these fans are busted because I pulled this out, then I'm going to just use 2 Noctua fans.
Instead. Game, you should play this game. It's called
So put the sticker back on.
Fire.
So the thing is, like, palette isn't that bad because so I have an RTX 3080 as well, and you actually don't have to do anything. The design is pretty nice, like the fan and everything is high quality. It's not crappy plastic like this is. The 3080 actually has a pretty nice I guess fan shroud. So
that you didn't want the guys to think you are not cool, so you didn't say. You just say you live in Australia. I know
okay, okay, you gotta go. Okay. So
Guys, wait. What's he saying? Let me translate if you're all.
you gotta go. Okay. I think we might need to take a break. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying. I think we're gonna leave it there. And if you guys have questions about this, yes, if this thing doesn't work, I'm gonna use the Noctua fans. I think I said it like 3 times already. But I don't even remember what was in my head anymore because I got crazy kids running around. And the thing is, like, I was hoping that they would at least learn at some stage that, my gosh, at least learn at some stage that they could be quiet, do something else. The Ryzen news is coming. Well, actually, I was also going to say, it says Ryzen news. I meant to say like it's Nintendo, Sony, Ryzen APU news. Ryzen stuff is going to be looking at the review on Anantech. So just, maybe you guys have looked at it. Maybe you haven't, but I thought we could go through that together because it's a bit similar to like Steam Deck stuff. Okay, so, huh? So I think we're gonna leave that RTX 3060 stuff there. It went okay, but just like the kids were just acting up. So I think we should go to some of the news. You gotta go. You gotta go.
Move. You took MUT. Muted. You're muted.
Okay, I'm still up. Okay, so let's go with Nintendo news.
You muted. What muted? I don't understand.
And you know, before I do. Hey everyone, welcome back. I think I'm up. So if you can't hear me, let me know in the comments. But yeah, with the kids, I think I'm gonna have to go at 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. when they're asleep, but they also sleep in this room. So it's like, what am I going to do? The thing is, if I lock the door, they'll keep talking outside, or they'll bang the door. Or if I let them in, I'm hoping they'll just sit there and play Switch. And if they don't, they can be annoying like this. I don't know if you can hear them. I've got NVIDIA broadcast on, I think, so I think you can't hear them because if I leave it off, if I don't talk, then NVIDIA broadcast doesn't broadcast their voice. They're shouting outside right now. Okay, so we've got Nintendo news, we've got a bit of Sony news, and then we've also got the AMD Ryzen news. And we've got Nintendo of America, Mario Golf. So I'm wondering if any of you guys bought Mario Golf. I'm thinking about it, but I've got a lot of games on my plate right now, so I don't really need to buy it at the moment. And I've got a lot of golf games that I just never get to play or finish. I've got Hot Shots Golf. I've got all of them on Vita, on PS3, and I got the PS4 one. And then I never end up finishing them all. So that's why I'm holding off a little bit on Mario Golf. But Mario Golf is getting some free updates, which you don't get on Hot Shots Golf. Hot Shots, you gotta like pay for everything. But Mario Golf, they have a new mode with ranked match, new character, Toadettes, new course, new Dong City. The new Dong City is obviously a course from Mario Odyssey. And I'll just play this clip for you here without the audio, but I know it's a little bit small. If I make it bigger, you're gonna lose maybe a third of the screen. But as you can see, this is a course from Super Mario Odyssey. I think it looks pretty cool. Not exactly my type of course. I'd rather a course out, I guess, a proper golf course, but they already have 6 of them. So I guess this is just something else. Gives it a little bit of a unique look. Hunam, am I still muted? I don't think I'm muted. So let me know in the comments below. Sorry for the all of the troubles of the stream. But I think they've left now. So they've gone somewhere else. Anyway, so that is the 15-second look at the update for Mario Golf. So Amazon's New World MMO. Now this was in the news last week because apparently the game was bricking a lot of graphics cards because at the menu the frame rate would run really high, and obviously there was some sort of bug in the game. Maybe it was the game. There was some sort of bug which allowed the menu to run at a really high frame rate and push the power delivery to, I guess, levels that normally wouldn't be allowed. But at the same time, this shouldn't actually be something that is happening to the NVIDIA hardware. So it's not like I'm blaming Amazon. The hardware shouldn't actually have this issue. So it's definitely the fault of NVIDIA and the AIB partners as well. The Amazon, this just happened to a lot of the Amazon games, but no game should really be running where you get an excessive frame rate and then that's going to kill your card. Okay, so anyways, there's some new news for Amazon's New World. I'm guessing this is because they want to fix up some of those technical issues and give it a little bit more time. Now, I haven't even played this, so I don't even know what it really looks like. But this game is an MMO, and it's going to be now launching in late September. It was supposed to launch at the end of August. So that's still 2 months away. almost. It's 28th of this September. So it's still a while to go. I think this is a good idea to just delay it a little bit and just see what's going on. Maybe fix those issues with the graphics cards, and hopefully when it comes back, it doesn't have that issue. The simple thing is really for them just to lock the menu to 60 FPS or 120 FPS, whatever it is. I think that would be the easiest way rather than have an unlimited FPS on the menu. Okay, so there were two big stories that I want to talk about today. One of them is Nintendo's quarterly profits that they announced a couple of days ago. So Nintendo Life wrote an article about this. This is Nintendo's profits drops as expected. It says Nintendo's profits drop as expected, but it remains in a strong position. Now, if we recall back to a year ago, this was when the pandemic really started, and I guess that is why it had massive sales. So we have to really think about it in that context as well, that if you have a massive record, then it's really hard to top that again. But I don't really want to talk that much about like how much money the company makes, because that's not really what I'm interested in. But just for the sake of, I guess, you know, just to know about it, it was 322.6 billion yen, which is about $3 billion US dollars, and it was down about 10%. So it's still raking in 3 billion a quarter, which is still really huge. Plus, this quarter is not even going to be the Christmas quarter, which will just be way bigger than everything else. So it's about down 10% roughly. Now, what I am interested in is the number of units sold, because that kind of tells you how popular or successful the console is. And I'm almost at the point where I'd rather buy systems later rather than earlier. And what I mean is, like, I bought the Vita, I bought the Wii U, and I was excited about those. Wii U a bit less because I didn't really like the hardware there, but I like the games. So the thing is, like, if you collect for a system like the Wii U or even the Vita, the Wii U, they were only the first party games, and then after that there really wasn't much to get. So I felt like even though I bought that on sale, like for, I think it was like $100, I didn't really think it was worth it to get the Wii U, the console, because I only had 10 games in the end. It was kind of not worth it. Plus, they've remastered all of those games onto the Switch, except for Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I'm still waiting for, and why I haven't sold my Wii U yet. Once they do that, I'll think about selling the Wii U. But I think the Wii U might be a collector's item a little bit later on. So I'm kind of waiting for that right time as well, when to sell the console. But I don't really need it, given that almost everything is on the Switch, and it's just easier to just have it on the Switch. I guess the one nice thing about the Wii U is that you can play a lot of emulators and things like that on the Wii U, but really the controller is a bit too bulky, and I think in time people are going to have that on the Switch anyways. So I think there probably isn't any need, like, for someone who's not a collector to get a Wii U. Now, the Nintendo Switch has now outsold PS3 and Xbox 360, writes IGN. And so I guess that leads into my comments about, okay, well, I think it's just easier if you're somebody who's more interested in playing games and collecting. I think a more successful console will eventually have more games and a lot more games made for it. So something like a PS2 ended up having a ton of games made for it, and it was a good system to play on, and you know, and that results in a good system to collect for. So on the PS2 I have like 40 games, I think, and usually I'm about 40-50 games on every console. I'm not the type of person who goes and collects like 200-300 games on a console and just buys everything. I'm like quite selective in what I buy, because I know I'm not going to finish everything anyways. And that is why I started collecting for the Nintendo Switch. Oh god, can you see? Nope. Okay, here we go. Okay. That is why I started collecting for the Nintendo Switch, because I realized, okay, well, it's going to be different to the Wii U, because they're going to keep making games for this. If there's 100 million units out there, then they will keep making games in the next 3 or 4 years. Even after they bring out the Switch Pro, that is in 4K, they'll still keep making games for this, just like the 3DS and the Nintendo 3DS. The new 3DS didn't really take off. And they kept on making games for the regular 3DS anyway, because the installation base was so big. I don't know exactly what it is. 3DS made like 100 million units. So where are we? So this is the DS sold. Let me make that bigger. So the DS sold 150 million units. The 3DS 75 million, and that's the family. So I'm not exactly sure how many new 3DS, but I think they were almost trying to get rid of 3DS units by the end of it. So it's probably not that many made. I would probably say like maybe about 15-20 million units of this would have been the new 3DS, and about 50 million for the regular 3DS. And that's probably why they didn't want to just make lots of new 3DS games, because it's just not enough people that were going to be playing or buying the game. So now the article says that it's outsold PS3 and Xbox 360. So Nintendo Switch has shipped more than 89 million units, helping it pass both Xbox 360 and PS3. The Xbox 360 sold 86 million units, while PS3 reached 87.4 million. Obviously, the PS2 is the biggest console seller, shipping 155 million units. But you can see it just surpassed the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 here. Honestly, the Xbox 360 did really well to get to 84 million, and it must have eaten into some of the PlayStation 3 sales, because the PlayStation 2 had 155 million. A large part of this is because the PlayStation 3 couldn't get its costs down. It was, I think it was $599 for the 60 gigabyte when it started. And so $590, when you jump up from say like the PlayStation 2, which was $299, to a PlayStation 3, which is like $599, it might have been $499. So it could have been $399, $499. But yeah, that was a big jump of at least $200 for the PlayStation 3, which the Xbox 360, the price was lower. I think it was $299 and $399. So, and then it was very similar in performance as well. So the Xbox 360 was eating some of PS3's lunch at the start of the generation, and it also had better performing games as well. So it was almost like if you were to play FIFA or something like that, you may as well just get the 360 because it plays better on the 360. And the PS3, it was a little bit harder to develop for. So it was, yeah, so the PS3 got off to a really slow start. Hunam, where's Steam Deck on that list? So it would have sold maybe like 55 to 100,000 units already. And this is just a list of 1 million units sold. So it's not on that list yet, but it will be there pretty soon, I think. The PlayStation 5 is at 10 million units, so it's about to pass the Master System and the PlayStation Vita. And it's interesting that they have 10 to 15 million for the Vita, because they already have numbers for this in, I think, like the Famitsu magazine. They always list like how many it sells every week. So they should know roughly how many units the Vita sold. Okay, so this is the main thing that I want to talk about today. This is the financial results explanatory material that Nintendo puts out every quarter, which is really cool. It's got a lot of interesting information, and it's not all financial. Most of it is about unit sales, which is interesting to me, rather than, say, for example, these net sales of like how much money that I actually make, which is okay, like if you like financial numbers and all that sort of, but I don't really want to be like that type of fanboy that talks about, hey, look, Nintendo made 10 million more or $1 billion more than Sony, ha ha ha. It's more interesting to talk about the consoles sales and also the software sales and see what people are playing. That's what's interesting about this. So a lot of this is like all the profit stuff, which is fine. And I'll leave a link in the comments below later on for this, but you can also see the address here. So I think if you just type in Nintendo quarterly profit, you'll get to this PDF pretty easy. Okay, here are some initial numbers. So as you can see here, new Pokemon Snap, 2 million units. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger. 2 million units. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe actually outsold Animal Crossing this quarter, which is surprising. I guess Mario Kart 8 is the type of game that just keeps on selling with every single unit sold, whereas maybe Animal Crossing doesn't do that as much. But I think it should sooner or later, because for me, after playing Animal Crossing for about 15 hours, this is really one of the best games of the generation. Like, if you guys haven't played Animal Crossing, or if you're not really into Nintendo stuff, the Switch Lite is $200. If you're curious, Switch Lite is $200, and if you only bought one game for the Switch, get either Animal Crossing or Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers, there's just so much content that if you kind of like that fighting games sort of, if you like fighting games, then get Smash. But Animal Crossing, it just feels like the game, it has something to keep you going all the time. It's ridiculous how much stuff is in Animal Crossing and what they programmed into the game. There's so much stuff going on, and there's so much stuff to do, so much stuff to make, and I can see why Animal Crossing sold 33 million copies. Mario Kart 8 is still in the lead at about 37 million units, but Animal Crossing is right up there. And when you consider Smash sold 24 million, Smash doesn't appeal to as many people as Animal Crossing. Now, something else I wanted to show you guys. Oh, and this is interesting. So the darker parts of the graph is the regular Nintendo Switch, and the lighter part is the Switch Lite. And there's a lot less people buying the Switch Lites. So a lot of people bought it last year when it came out, but now I guess people who are getting into the system obviously want to get the regular Switch because it has the detachable Joy-Cons, and I think that makes the most sense. If you don't have a Switch, I would get the regular Switch first with the detachable Joy-Cons. You can play multiplayer with other people, whereas the Switch Lite is really just for single player gamers, or if you want a second Switch. Even if you want a second Switch, there is a case like maybe you just want to get 2 of these regular Switches, then you'll have 4 detachable Joy-Cons. Then you'll be able to play lots of different games with 4 detachable Joy-Cons. As you guys know, the OLED model is coming, which is going to be really cool. The Switch Lite screen I do find a little bit small. That's probably my only concern about it. Even though I really like the size of it, but for people who like larger screens, they should definitely get the 7-inch OLED model. It is $349, and I do feel like that is a little bit pricey. When I was looking back at Australia prices, for people in Australia to pay $500 for like 5-year-old hardware, yeah, I think that is a little bit overpriced. I think most people are just going to wait for the Switch Pro version. So Tommy, thank you so much for the super chats. I actually don't know how much that is, but thank you so much for that. I'm guessing that is from Sweden, or yeah, I believe it's Swedish. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, make sure to put it in the chat, and so we can discuss. There is another really interesting graph here, which is this one. Okay, this one is super interesting to me. This is the proportion of digital sales. This is the red line here on this graph. The other parts is interesting also because it's talking about download only software, so software that people are actually buying on Nintendo Switch Online, and downloadable versions of packaged software. So you can also buy these gift cards in shops, I guess, from Amazon or from like Walmart, where you don't actually get the package game. Pretty sure you don't get the package because it's downloadable. So that is the distribution, and a lot of people are actually still buying stuff from Walmart, and even though they don't get anything in there other than a code, they are still buying the digital version of that. Which, to me personally, I think cartridges are the way to go. Like regular boxed games are the way to go for the Nintendo Switch, because if you have more than one Switch, then it's easy to just like pull that card out and then just put it in another system, and that is the easiest way to like think about, okay, well, how many copies do I have, and if I want to play with 2 people, okay, just buy 2 copies of it. There are ways you can get around this by just having one copy of the software, and then having a primary system and a secondary system, and then logging out, putting it in airplane mode, because there's a check of about 3 hours. So you can play on that one copy for about 3 hours before it does that Nintendo Online check to make sure your copy is not being used by someone else. So technically, more than one person can actually play that copy of the software. But I think that is a lot of trouble. And then once you have enough of a library, say for example, you know, if you have enough games, there shouldn't really be a need where you both want to play the same game at the same time. And I think like most people, you can kind of reason with people, okay, like in a family, right? In a family, you could say, okay, if I play it now, you can play it later, kind of thing. I think that is the easiest way to go about it. Obviously, there may be children and families and things like that are different, that have to play the same game at the same time. Somebody's hogging the game. In that case, yeah, maybe you just have to get... the digital is an okay idea for that case. But yeah, I think it's just easier to buy the cartridges, for me anyway. But as I was saying, the red line is the distribution of digital sales versus the cartridge sales. So right now it's 46.9%, and it's always been hovering at around 50%. A couple of quarters where there were more cartridge sales, like financial year 21 quarter 2 and quarter 3, it was 38.9% and 32.1%. It was obviously lower then, but generally it's about 50%. So 50% of people are buying digital, 50% are buying cartridges. That sounds about right to me, because there are advantages to both and disadvantages to both. Okay, some other things that are coming. I'll just quickly flip through this. There's only one thing left that I want to show you guys. which is this, the million seller Nintendo first party titles. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at 37 million units, and Animal Crossing is at 33 million units. Ring Fit Adventure, surprisingly, is at 11 million units. Now, I would have thought that with Wii Fit and Wii Fit U, that I think that whole genre was kind of dead. I did buy a Wii Fit with a balance board, by the way, which I wanted to get because I wanted to play some snowboarding games anyway. So that's why I bought a Wii Fit. And I really didn't get enough use out of that. So I've stopped buying any plastic junk. So I think Ring Fit doing 11 million units is really surprising. This isn't easy to get like 10 million units. It may look easy, like looking at all of these Nintendo games, that all of them get like above 1 million units, and 10 million, a lot of games get 10 million units, but it's not easy. Like you look at a lot of other games, it's really difficult to get past 5 million units. And the other thing is, like, they may bring out more Ring Fit adventures, because if you look at Super Mario 3D World, this is a game that was on Wii U. This sold 6.6 million units in about 4 or 5 months. So this would be 2 quarters worth. And Ring Fit Adventure, it might not even get to 11 million units. So Ring Fit Adventure is going to do better than a regular Mario 3D game. This is surprising as well, because Super Mario Odyssey has done about 20 million units, and so Super Mario 3D World at 6.6 million units. There it really is something where if it gains traction and it starts selling a ton of units, then it's just going to keep selling more and more because people start to talk about it. And something like Super Mario Odyssey selling 20 million, you would expect that there would be enough of a Mario audience there to get Mario 3D World some decent sales, like similar sales. But once you don't have enough people buying the game and talking about the game, then the sales can start to slow down. It's almost like YouTube views, right? There are some videos that just gets millions and millions of views, and some that really struggle to get the views. And if you don't have enough people watching it, then that can really hurt the actual video. Tommy Mullen, yes, Sweden, about $6 or so. So thank you so much for that. Oh, I wasn't really asking how much. It was just that I didn't really know how much that converted to. But yeah, almost 5 a.m. and just about to sleep and saw you live. So thought I'd pop in and show some appreciation. So thank you so much for coming in and joining in today. We've got 7 viewers at the moment, which is nice. We've had more in the past, but yeah, if you guys have any comments and things like that you want to talk about in the chat, make sure to leave a comment. And anywho, I wish you all a good night and thanks again. So thank you for coming into the chat. Okay, so that about does it for the Nintendo stuff. There's some other stuff here about release dates for new games, and there really isn't a whole lot that you haven't seen that wasn't on a Nintendo Direct. So going over this, if you've seen the recent Nintendo Direct, then these are all the games that were on that Direct anyways, and they're not going to announce something here that hasn't been on the Direct already. One interesting thing is Splatoon 3 is coming 2022, so I didn't know this, and I don't think they've showed off the game. Something called Project Triangle Strategy, Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4, which has always been rumored. I guess they're kind of just putting out there that is definitely coming. But out of all of these games, I might get WarioWare Get It Together and maybe Mario Party Superstars, depending on like what games are actually in there. If there are too many similar to the existing Super Mario Party, then I'm not going to get that. And don't know about Pokemon because I may get Pokemon Legends Arceus, but it really depends. I just don't want too much of a grind. And I'm sure I can just watch people play it anyways, which will be, well, for me anyway, because I'm not such a big fan of Pokemon. I haven't actually played any of the Pokemon. I played a little bit, but not enough to really know too much about the series. So I'm just happy to watch other people play that. Okay, so that's gonna do it for the Nintendo stuff. If you guys have any questions about Nintendo stuff, make sure to comment in the chat. So now let's talk about PlayStation 5. So Sony says that it can now reach goal of 22 million PS5 sales without shortages. And last year I made a video saying that they had already secured about 10 million units of PS5, at least the processors from TSMC. And that was a video ages ago. And it turns out that they made about 10 million units, or they've sold it through 10 million units. There was another tweet recently, oh, here we go. So it says here, Sony has previously said its target was to sell 14.8 million PS5s during financial year 2021. And the funny thing is, like, people get these financial years 21 and 22 a little bit mixed up. Like, Nintendo says it's financial year 22 now, and for Sony it's financial year 21. So just to clear that up. But yeah, they've sold through about 10 million units of PS5s at the moment. So they're more or less on track from what they said they were going to do. I expected that they would sell more. I thought they would sell 20 million in the first year, but they're going to be a little bit less than that. So it's probably looking like it's about 15 million units up until, I guess, October this year. So it's a little bit less than the 20 million that I expected, because it was the most hyped console of all time for sure. If you look at all of the YouTube numbers, if you look at all of the view counts everywhere, it was absolutely destroying the Xbox in terms of the view count. So everybody wanted a PS5 last year. I think there was a poll that said that 85% of people who wanted a new console wanted a PS5 and 15% wanted an Xbox. And part of the reason, obviously, is because you can play a lot of the Xbox games on PC anyway. So it's not that the Xbox was terrible. It's just that people were hyped for, I guess, exclusives of a console. The other thing, of course, is that the PS5 gives you something that the PC doesn't, because it's so much cheaper than a PC if you were to make a PC. Especially during the last 6 months, this was true because of the mining. People were buying a lot of the GPUs for mining, and it was sending the GPU prices up. So there are things like this RTX 360 that I got next to me that was supposed to be $300, but now I had to pay $700 for. But it was still worth it if you were to mine with it. So yeah, with the PS5, everybody wanted a PS5 because it was the value proposition to playing the latest games. So I expected them, I kind of expected them to put in a bigger order of PS5s, but really I'm assuming that there's really nothing that they can do about it. They pretty much got every last chip that they can possibly get, and they just can't put out any more. Like, they can't really make that manufacturing factory any bigger. They can't make TSMC any bigger. They can't put any more manufacturing lanes. And really, it's the processor shortage that is the main cause of the issue. It's not like, they don't have enough plastic for the case, or they don't have enough HDMI ports or anything like that. It's the processor inside. But anyway, let's go to this quote from the Sony CFO, Hiroki Totoki. He says, "For PS5 and the number of units to be sold this year, the target has been set, and we have secured the number of chips that is necessary to achieve that. And regarding the supply of semiconductors, we are not concerned." But yeah, so they've got the most number that they can get. 22 million PS5 sales up until March of next year. And so that's kind of like a little bit less than I thought it would, because I thought they would get to about 20 million in the first year, so up until November. That is still a really good total, and I guess this is just going to get bigger as they improve manufacturing process know. So they'll do a redesign in a couple of years. They'll call it the PS5 Slim, and then that's going to be on a smaller die, so they can make more of these. So it might be on like TSMC 5nm, and then the die size, it might go from like 280 down to 200. They'll get more dies, and in that way, they'll be able to make more of these. So for me, I'm probably waiting until the PS5 Slim to get one, because I don't have a 4K TV yet. I've got a 1440p monitor, so, and I can't even plug in the PS5 into this monitor because I've only got a display port on the back of this. So I got really nowhere to plug in a PS5. I could plug it into my 1080p monitor TV, but I think I might just wait. Like, there really is no rush to get the PS5 right now, for me anyway. I've got a ton of other games to play. I got PC games. I got Xbox Game Pass on PC. I've got Switch games. It's, yeah, just buying the PS5 for like 3 or 4 games. I might wait a little bit on that. Okay, so that's Sony. So the other thing I want to say about this quickly is just that if you're looking to get a PS5, don't wait until Christmas to get a PS5. Get one in the next couple of months, August, September. After that, it's going to be so hard to get. I think the prices of the PS5 are going to start to go back up again. If we look at StockX, so it's down to $700, which is probably the lowest it's ever been. And I got it quite wrong last time, but it's definitely lower now. But yeah, I do see this price going back up around Christmas time. The scalpers are just going to buy more of them, and they're going to try and buy as many as they can. I feel like this is going to be, it's starting to go back up again. I don't think $700 is necessarily a bad price to get this after everything that we've been through with GPUs and how expensive PCs are. I don't think $700 is that bad. Now, of course, you know, if you can get one at MSRP somehow, if you can wait for a Walmart drop, I would definitely do that. But even if you had to, if you must absolutely have a PS5 and you have to buy it from a scalper, well, at least buy it now. Okay. Where are we? Okay, so we've done the Sony stuff. Now it's time to talk about PC stuff. Sleeping Elephant says, I think Nintendo Switch OLED will help lower prices. How do you mean it will help lower prices? I mean, it's already $349, so it's more expensive than the regular Switch. In terms of like getting more gaming consoles out there, I guess that would make sense. Although I sometimes I feel like Nintendo and PlayStation aren't really that interchangeable, even though they're competing in the same space, competing for your same amount of time playing a game. I think PlayStation people who might just want to get PlayStation won't actually go and turn around and buy a Nintendo. So I think there are levels to all of this when we do comparisons and stuff. Definitely, when we talk about like gaming time, you're competing for the same gaming time. But I think in terms of console sales, if you just want a PS5, I don't see that many people who will just go get a Nintendo. I guess if you're getting given a gift, like at Christmas, that's a little bit different because maybe your grandma is saying, oh, okay, well, I'll buy little Jimmy a Nintendo Switch because I can't get the PS5. So in that way, maybe they're kind of interchangeable that way. But if you're buying it for yourself, I think most people will just go, okay, I only want to get PS5, I don't want to get the Nintendo, or vice versa. Okay, so we're going to talk about Ryzen APUs. This is the Ryzen 9 5900HX, which we really haven't talked about here on this channel, but this does still have those 8 Vega compute units. I thought this was an interesting way to set up the AnandTech review for the Ryzen Ryzen APUs, because this is something that you can get if you wanted to, and it looks really cool, right? Like, it's a mini PC that you could put on your desktop, or you could put next to your TV, and you go, oh, well, you know, I could play games on this. But the question is, like, after you look through all of the performance charts, the question really becomes, do you really want to? Like, do you really want to spend, like, I don't know how much this is. It could be like $500. But do you really want to pay $500 for lower than PS4 quality graphics? And I think most people will probably say, I'd rather just get a PS5 or Xbox Series X and play at better quality graphics and buy a really cheap laptop for $200, $300 instead. And yes, that's going to cost you $800 or even $1,000. But I think most people would rather do that rather than getting a sort of gimped GPU in the process. But here, it says here, Minis Forum. I don't know who they are. So even though I'm, I guess, almost promoting their stuff, I don't really know Minis Forum and whether you should buy it. I'm not telling you guys to buy it, by the way. I'm just showing you like that people are putting APUs in these type of machines, and it's a really cool idea, like even for you to just go and do a DIY little box with an APU inside, which is something I've always wanted to do, but I'd probably wait until there are 1080p 60 GPUs, APUs out there first before I do something like this. But this is the Elite Mini HX90, a tiny system built around one of AMD's current generation Zen 3 processors. Okay, so I'll just skip a little bit of this. The Elite Mini HX90 taps AMD's latest CPU architecture in the form of the Ryzen 9 5900HX. That is an overclockable 8-core 16-thread chip with a 3.3 GHz base clock, 4.6 GHz max boost clock, and 16 megabytes of L3 cache. This is one of the fastest mobile APUs in AMD's product catalog, the same as found in the highly praised Razer Blade 14, which Dave James called the most desirable gaming laptop he's ever reviewed. Now, that Razer Blade might actually have a GPU inside, so that would be different to because this PC here is using the APU for its graphics, because it says here, as it applies specifically to gaming, the big caveat with the Elite Mini HX90 is that it leans entirely on integrated graphics. The 5900HX wields onboard graphics based on Vega with 8 graphic cores clocked at 2.1 GHz. A discrete GPU would offer a lot more firepower for gaming and graphics. For less demanding games though, it's certainly serviceable. It's even able to hit the 60 FPS mark in certain titles. According to Minis Forum's own benchmark data, it averages 60 FPS in Apex Legends. Now, they don't really say what resolution, which is a bit weird. 77 FPS in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and 68 FPS in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. They also don't say what settings they're using. I'm going to guess it's 1080p here. Oh, it says here, it's not mentioned what graphics quality settings Minis Forum used, only that these were obtained at 1920 by 1080. So 1080p, probably low settings, I'm guessing, for these benchmarks. And again, is this something where you want to play The Witcher 3 at 30 FPS? So in terms of APUs, it's not really there yet. Let me see if I can zoom that. This is cool. So it's using a 2280 PCIe SSD, doesn't say what gen, gonna guess Gen 3, 2 DDR4 dual channel, which is pretty cool, a APU, a fan. In fact, this is something that people could just put together themselves if they have the right size motherboard, like a mini ITX, buy a mini ITX case. You could probably just do all of this yourself. But yeah, I want to do something like this, but maybe with RDNA 2 units or even RDNA 3, where you can get 1080p. Let's see how the Steam Deck turns out, because if that turns out well, maybe people will start making these type of mini PCs that they put under their TV. I think that's going to be pretty interesting because at the 1080p 60 level, that's enough to play a lot of games. Like you can play The Witcher 3 1080 60 on an APU like this. That would probably require 4 teraflops, which is still going to take some time to get to. I think maybe with FSR, you could lower that a little bit. So you're almost getting there, right? Like, I think we're a couple of years away, 1 year or 2 year away before we can get 1080 60 APUs. But I still think it's pretty cool, but it's not something that I really want to spend like $500. So this one is $649 for bare bones config, add RAM, SSD, and OS. The next step up is $799 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabyte installed, and 829 config doubles the storage to 512. So that's probably where you would go. You probably wouldn't need to get 32 gigs of RAM for something like this. And the other thing is, for people who are doing video editing or any other type of content creation, the GPU in there is not really strong enough for a lot of things anyways. So even if you were to use something like Blender, I'm pretty sure the APU wouldn't be good enough. So for gaming, you'd probably want either the $799 or $829. So that's really expensive. Like, that's almost in the type of territory like an Aya Neo or GPT Win 3, which just uses the APU inside. At that price, you may as well just get a laptop, a 1000 or 1200 laptop with the 3050 or 3060, and you can play a lot of games at 1080p. You could just like plug that into the HDMI port into your TV and just play your games that way. That would be easier than buying something like this. So, and the performance would just be way better just by adding like a $200, $300 discrete graphics card. So now we've come to the AnandTech review of the Ryzen 7 5700G, the Ryzen 5 5600G, and the Ryzen 3 5300G. The one that interests me the most is the Ryzen 3 5300G, because but apparently that is not for sale. So the Ryzen 7 5700G and 5600G, they have prices for this somewhere down here. Let me have a look. Okay, so it says here the Ryzen 7 5700G will have an MSRP of $359. The 5600G should retail for $259. Now these are chips that were actually made available to OEMs, system builders who make their desktops. So for example, like Dell, for example, and they weren't made available to the public, but now they are. So you will be able to buy these soon, either through an online retailer like Amazon or Newegg, and you will be able to get these. Whether you want to is a different issue. There's a slight difference between some of these, so I believe they will tell you somewhere here. Okay, here we go. This is going to get technical because that's what AnandTech does, but it says basically here, otherwise, the most noticeable differences between AMD's Ryzen 5000 CPUs and 5000G APUs comes down to the PCIe lane configuration. The CPUs get 24 lanes of PCIe 4, so that's your regular CPUs, and then the APUs get 20 lanes of PCIe 3. So if you wanted to use, say, like your Gen 4 SSDs, then you wouldn't be able to do that on your APUs. You'd have to do that on your CPUs. Hello Last Rides, how you going? Given that modern graphics cards, oh sorry, I missed the bit. The APUs only have half as much L3 cache, and of course the APUs also come with integrated graphics. So if you don't care about the PCIe lanes, so if you're just happy with Gen 3, you could get the 5700G and 5600G. The other thing, of course, is it doesn't have as much cache, which would actually benefit games. But obviously, this isn't something that you would get if you wanted to play the latest games with and try to optimize everything that way. If you were to do that, you would obviously have a separate CPU and a separate GPU. This is something that is going to... Games and graphics are a secondary concern. As you can see there, here are the prices. The 5800X, which is a similar CPU in terms of core counts, base frequencies, turbo frequencies, the 5800X is a lot more expensive. It's $449, and the 5700G is $359. Another difference is that the 5700G runs at 65 watts. So the 5800X will be able to hold those turbos better. So you'll be able to boost for longer. And as of course you can see, the L3 cache on the 5800X is 32 megabytes. The 5700G is 16. And if you go up to the 5900X, which obviously is in a different price bracket, I think it's $549. That one is 72 megabytes, I believe. So around there, it's double of this 5800X. So is that worth it for $100 less, roughly, or $90 less for the 5700G? I would say that for gaming, that would be a decent CPU to get for gaming if you really must save the money. And what would you get between the 5600X and the 5700G? I think that's going to need testing. I don't really want to say right now which one you should get. I believe you'd probably want to get the 5700G. To jump up to $50, even with the 16 megabytes less of L3 cache. But that's really hard for me to quantify right now. But given that you got 8 cores, 16 threads, the 5600X has 6 cores, 12 threads, and boosts around the same level. The TDP is about the same. The 5700G might actually be the way to go, despite the 16 megabytes L3 cache. We just don't really know how much of an effect that really has. So make sure you go and watch, like, I'm sure somebody like Hardware Unbox will probably test something like this. And then obviously, like, if you want to just sit tight and don't want to buy a GPU for the time being, you can obviously use the GPU on the APU as a stopgap. So you could use these 8 Vega units on the 5700G. If you don't want to buy your graphics card right now, you can just use that for the time being. That's not going to be really good long term because you might only play stuff at 720p, 1080p, but it could be okay for like a month, you know, while you wait for your GPU to arrive. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show was the benchmarks, and I'll leave a lot of the other stuff for you guys to go and check out on your own because I think some of it can get a little bit nitty-gritty. What I really wanted to show here, what I wanted to emphasize was the resolution you're going to be playing at. Because, for example, Gears Tactics, you're at 720p low. Now, this is at 107 FPS, but you're still at low settings. And low settings is fine, I guess. But if I'm at 107 FPS, I'd probably push that down and try to get 60 FPS, like at medium somehow. And so they're testing the APU with a lot of different games. They start off testing at 720p just to make sure that they can hit 60 FPS first. So all of these games they're testing for games that are operating at above 60 FPS. They've got Grand Theft Auto 5 at 720p low. Low is okay in GTA 5, but yeah, it's a lot better at medium. Low is almost like playing on PS3 quality level. That's how, and I think most people would be used to playing at least the PS4 quality level for Grand Theft Auto 5. Final Fantasy 14 at about 80, so that's probably, you probably wouldn't be able to lower that anymore if you wanted to stay above 60 FPS. Strange Brigade 720p low is at 96 FPS. Far Cry 5, wow, this is 360p and it still manages only 80 FPS. Borderlands 3, 360p, not really resolutions that you're going to play these games at 360p. The other thing, of course, is like with such high fidelity games that we have right now, they actually really need higher resolutions to see all of the detail. Otherwise, you're going to have problems with games that were developed at higher detail for like say 1080p, and then you're going to be bringing that down to like 720p, and you lose a lot of detail. Everything gets washed out and muddy and blurry. And I would imagine a lot of these games are going to be like that, because now you're equating, say, like say 4 squares of detail into 1 square, and you're kind of blurring all of that, and it looks really bad. It doesn't look so bad in older games like PlayStation 1 games or PlayStation 2 games, because they didn't have as much detail back then. So it's not as blurry. There's not as many objects and detail in the scene. So it doesn't look bad playing older games at like 360p. But newer games, they certainly do. And I'll just give you a little bit of a look what it looks like, because I did a video ages ago on Yakuza. I did a graphics guide. Now this is really interesting because when I first posted this, it was doing really bad, and now it has 7,000 views, which I'm really happy about. But let's go to, so normally it would look something like this. So you can see very clear, I believe this would be at like 1080p. It will say it in a second. But this would have been 1440p or 1080p, and you can see so much detail in the scene. And now let me go. Okay, so this is 1440p high. But if I turn on the render scale, so this is 720p rendering at 50%, which would be 540p, I believe. And you can see, like, you can't see anything anymore. All of the banners are gone. So this is 1440p render scale, 100%. So back to normal. Everything looks nice. You can see all of the signs. You can see what everything says. But if you start to turn that down 60%, but yeah, I think this is the most obvious one where everything is just gone. Like, you've lost all the detail. Like, is this something that you want to play on an APU? And I would say that, you know, playing all of the latest games at 720p, if you have a better way of doing it, I think most people are going to prefer that. And that's why I say, like, with the Steam Deck, we still have to be cautious and just make sure we see like a lot of videos and see how all these games look and turn out, because there are going to be some games that end up looking like this when you play it at 720p plus the render scale at 50%, and everything is going to be blurry and washed out, and it's really hard to see stuff. So what happens if you do play it at 1080p? Now, they have tested this at max, which isn't really that great because we know that max isn't going to work anyways. So it would have been better if they also tested 1080p max and 1080p, say, medium. Then you'd be able to see how it fares. Now, Counter-Strike is a game that you can play well, and so 1080p high is at 185 FPS, but this is a game that's like 15 years old, so of course it's going to work well. It even plays Counter-Strike Source at 4K, and this is Source, not Go, by the way, so this is a really old game. Far Cry Ultra only runs at 25 FPS. Borderlands 3 1080p max runs at 12 FPS, so it's unplayable. And I would expect that if you drop down to medium or even low, you're still at about 20 FPS. So really not possible to play there. Better off, if you just want to play at 30 FPS, you might want to drop that down to 900p. Final Fantasy 14 1080p max. This is at 22 FPS. Deus Ex at 16 FPS. So, yeah, this is why, for me personally, why I'm not buying the Ryzen Season. This is something cool to tinker with, something cool to play a lot of older games, but we're still not at the level where we can play, like even say a Far Cry 4 or Far Cry 5 at 1080p medium 60 FPS. We're not really there yet. FSR is going to help. Hopefully FSR gets implemented in more games. And going back through, like, you know, I hope developers go through their older catalog and just implement FSR, because it's going to really help people with APUs such as this. So that's going to be all that I have in terms of news for today. And that's how I wanted it. I didn't want too much news. I didn't want to go for too long. We're running at about an hour 40 anyways. And I think that's a pretty good time for, I guess now we can have some questions and things, then we can run to 2 hours. But if nobody's going to write anything in the chat, then I guess we might even cut this a little bit shorter. But I will go to the other scene. And I guess there are a few other things I can talk about while we're here. But really, at this moment in time, we're probably about to end the stream, say like 10, 15 minutes. If you guys have any other questions and things you wanted to say, make sure to comment in the chat. Now, maybe I'll go back to that browser. I'll show you something else that I got this week. So I decided to get a Stream Deck, and it hasn't arrived yet, but I'm excited to use this. I'm not really that excited with the kids and everything down, you know, that keep coming into the room and stuff. I don't really know what to do about that. The obvious solution was that I would do my live streams at my other studio. Well, a studio, when I say studio, it's like another location. It's not really a studio, but at that place, there are no distractions, so it's much easier for me to do stuff. It's a bit annoying when they come into the stream, and I do apologize for that, but the choice really is, like, they get locked out of the room, they start banging the door and start yelling, or they come into the room, and I'm hoping they'll play Nintendo Switch or something like that. But there are times when they get excited about streams and stuff, and they want to be in on the stream and go on YouTube and all that. So I apologize for the kids coming in and everything. But they're really nice kids, and yeah, don't want to shout at them for doing something that I probably would do as well. Okay. Yeah, so anyways, I got a Stream Deck, and I'm looking forward to this. I found last week I had a lot of problems with the whole stream setup. So I wanted to get something that would, I guess, make the streaming a little bit easier, because this is a one-man show. So I have to control everything. I have to control the audio, I have to control the, I guess, the speed of the connection. Sometimes it's not working well. I can see that sometimes that's the bit rate drops and then it tanks, and then I have to adjust that. Yeah, so a lot of problems when you're doing it all by yourself, but I'm not the only person that's doing it by myself. There must be tons of people who are also doing the same thing. But anyways, I thought I would make it easier, and I've been meaning to get this thing anyways for a long time. I really like live streams. I want to make this more of a chat show down the line. But obviously now is not a great time because now I'm in my bedroom and then there are kids and everything, so it's not a great time to do a chat show, especially one that I can't really commit to in terms of when I can turn up and stream every week. But I guess hopefully in the future, when I go back to Australia, I can have my own space, and then I'll be able to do a streaming setup there and be more on schedule with when I can be on. But anyway, I got a Stream Deck, and there were 3 choices. There was the 6-key version, there's a 15-key version, and a 32-key version. And obviously, the 6-key version I eliminated already because straight away, because I figured 6 keys was going to be really tough. You're going to have to put everything in folders before you press stuff. I think that really is only for people who just want to press play and start their stream. Now, the 15-key version is interesting because I think 15 keys would actually be enough. So that would be this one here. I think that would be enough for my needs. But this one was also about $200. So this was about 700, 800 ringgit in my, in terms of what it cost me. And the Stream Deck XL with 32 keys cost me $250. So I went for this version. I don't know what I'm gonna do with another 15 extra keys. This almost feels like you can run an entire studio off this, because you can run stuff like your lights and your audios. You can have a ton of different buttons for everything. I don't know what I will do with this, but I guess I got the extra keys anyways. Sleeping Elephant, Elgato's got a new Stream Deck. Yeah, so they got the Mark II. So they just brought this out a couple of weeks ago, and I looked at this and it was pretty cool, but a couple of things that are in this that is also in the Stream Deck XL as well is that they have a detachable cable. So this has a detachable cable, which is really important, I think, because, you know, for people who are doing streaming setups, they may want to move this around, get a longer cable. The detachable face plates I don't really care about. And aside from that, there's not a whole lot of new stuff in this version versus the XL. The main one for me really was the detachable cable, and that comes on the XL. So I decided to get that. There really doesn't seem like there's a whole lot. Maybe this version is newer, has better technology inside. Also, one thing that you can take, I don't know if you can actually see this, but you can actually take the computer aspect out. This part here, this you can take that completely out. So if you wanted to, you could take the Stream Deck out and apply it to like another piece of equipment that you wanted to. And that's really cool. Like if you wanted to, I don't know, if you have a band or something like that and you want to use it for another type of situation, then you could do whatever you like. You don't have to have this in the case and the Stream Deck and the setup and all of that sort of thing. And when I say take it out, I really mean like down to the, I guess, the motherboard aspect of it. Epox Fox has a good video showing that he took it completely out. So like almost like a Raspberry Pi, but not. I don't really know how to describe it. But yeah, there's a little bit more functionality like that you can strip this down to versus the older one. So really, they're the benefits of this new Stream Deck Mark II. It just functions exactly the same as the previous one because, you know, it's just 15 buttons with programmable keys with basically an LCD inside, which is really cool. Now, initially I didn't want to get this because I wanted to spend money on what the stream looks like. So I always wanted to put the money into the camera first or the audio. And I've got it. I really love this mic. This is the Blue Yeti. And, you know, even if I had 1 million subscribers, I'd probably just use this because it's so easy. A lot of people now start to use the Shure SM7B mic. And that's a really cool mic as well. But maybe at some stage I'll get that, but not right now for sure. It's so easy to just plug this USB mic in, especially when it's one person. So I'm just happy to do with that. I think the quality of the audio is fine. It's not that deep Shure SMB7 mic sound, but I'm okay with the sound quality on this. And I think you might have seen in some videos that I've got a lapel microphone, which I've attached sometimes, and the mic quality is really bad on that. So it's this mic here is really good standard. I think a lot of people still use the Blue Yeti. Like if you've seen in Zoom interviews and things like that, people use this a lot as well. So I really like this mic. Now the camera, I'm using a Logitech webcam. As long as you get enough light on, it's not so bad. So I'm continuing to use that. And then I've got this camera that I'm using here is a Sony a6000 that I've had for ages, which I didn't pick up specifically for YouTubing. That was just a camera that I always had. So that was pretty cool that I found out that you can actually, you know, hook it up to the HDMI port, plug it into your capture card, and then you're able to get a stream that way. That was really cool. And obviously, it's not running on the battery, it's running from the power point. You can buy like a add-on power thing that you plug into the battery pack, and it runs off the AC power. So I really love that camera, but the main problem for me with getting the camera right now is, and why I just got the Stream Deck, is because my background is terrible at the moment. It's just, and I can't really do anything about it because I'm in my bedroom, and the bedroom is a really odd shape. It's not just 4 walls, it's like a very weird shape. And I'm right up against this wall here. And so the room just doesn't look great. If I move across to my right, then you can see the bed and everything and the cupboards behind me. The whole room is just, I don't really like the room, but it's the only room that I have. So we're gonna have to go with this setup for the time being. I made the overlays and things like that on the live stream. So hopefully it looks a little bit better than if I were to say just have a straight webcam. But yeah, so we're coming up to about 2 hours and there are no other chats. So I think that might be a good time to just stop it there. Listen, thank you so much for everybody for joining in. I know we've had some issues like with a lot of, well, the kids coming in, and I love my kids, so don't worry about that. I don't really want to like get mad at them. I will get mad at them later, but like, yeah, it's just a learning educational process with them, and they kind of get really excited when there's a stream. But hopefully, obviously I won't have that distraction when I'm at the other location, but here hopefully they will just learn as time goes on, as they mature. So okay, that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and then for other people to come and watch the stream later on as well. And that's going to be it for this one. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like, subscribe as always, hit that bell, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.